How do you know if a song will stand the test of time? Let's drop the needle on the big question. Is music more memorable from the 20th century or the 21st century? Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock here with your latest pop fix. Every week we go in depth on the greatest songs in pop history with the artists and the writers who created them. For those of you not familiar with Professor of Rock's mission, I'll tell you, we aim to tell the video history of popular music song by song from the fans' perspective, not the critics. I don't care about that. We want to shine a light on the songs that are the touchstones and the checkpoints of our lives, from the first 45 that you bought to the song you requested on your local radio station, waiting ever so patiently to push record on your boombox, hoping that the DJ wouldn't talk over it, to the theme to your junior prom, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. There are a lot of songs and artists that don't get their due, even though their songs are beloved by you and I and every other Tom, Dick, or Harry. So with that in mind, I want to talk about an article that came out last week on metro.co that was all over social media and was picked up by many other news outlets. It was on a study that was done where a bunch of scientists tested a group of millennials on their ability to recognize hit records from different decades. So out of 643 participants, that's ages range from 18 to 25, they all maintained a steady memory of top hits that came out between 1960 and 1999. In contrast, their memory of 21st century songs from 2000 to 2015, while higher overall, diminished rapidly over time. So the lead researcher, Dr. Pascal from New York University, said the 1960s to the 1990s was a special time in music, reflected by a steady recognition of pieces of that era even by today's millennials. During this period, songs reaching the top of the US Billboard charts were significantly more varied than they were between 2000 and 2015. So this doesn't surprise me in the least. In my opinion, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s were far better than what's been at the top of the charts over the past decade and a half. Just the other day, I was kicking around on YouTube and they had this 30-minute video of every song that hit number one in the 1980s. Like they'd play 10 to 15 seconds of each music video and list the date and how long it was at number one. And it was really amazing because just about every song that came up was a classic that most everybody has heard or could sing out loud, whether a Gen Xer like me or a millennial who in some cases weren't even alive when these songs were at their peak position. I think this is mostly due to video games, movies, TV shows that have used these songs over and over. I mean, think about it. Just over the last decade alone, pop culture's use of these classic 80s songs has either made the world fall in love all over again with these ditties like Don't Stop Believin' or Africa or Eye of the Tiger, or for the very first time. In some cases, it's raised the popularity to levels beyond what they were in their heyday. It's because these songs are really unique and memorable. I really believe that these songs will stand the test of time much better than your most popular Justin Bieber, 50 Cent, or Flo Rida hit ever could. It kind of seemed like in the 1980s, music critics had a lot more power than they do right now. Rolling Stone pretty much made it their life's mission to eviscerate artists like Billy Joel, Journey, Styx, Phil Collins, Toto, or pretty much most artists with any commercial radio success. Rolling Stone was too busy applauding artists like Hothouse Flowers or the Feelies, Los Lobos, or Marshall Crenshaw to care. And though I like these artists, could the average person remember any of their songs aside from Los Lobos' remake of La Bamba? But now, the commercial successfully, critically discarded artists are having the last laugh decades later. I mean, is there an artist more sampled by the hip-hop community than Phil Collins? Was there another drum solo that would have worked better for Mike Tyson to mimic in a blockbuster film? Also, last time I checked, It was Billy Joel, who has a standing, sold-out monthly gig for the last 5 years at Madison Square Garden, not Marshall Crenshaw. Journey has sold out arenas all over the world for 10 years standing without Steve Perry, off of the backs of millennials who discovered them through the pilot episode of Glee. And Weezer had their biggest hit since the 90s by remaking Toto's classic, Africa. Not sure, but I don't know that the Feelies made the short list of potential 80s covers for Weezer. I could use the same argument for the classics of the 60s or the 70s or the 90s. I mean, how many people finish the lyric if I were to throw out 3 words, baby come back? I guarantee you, after I just said that 80% of you guys watching this would say, you can blame it all on me. Also, one of the songs we're featuring this week at ProfessorOfRock.com from 1967. The #1 smash, Incense and Peppermints, by Strawberry Alarm Clock, has been smugly passed over online by many top psychedelic songs lists out there. Yet outside of the Beatles, it was the biggest hit of the genre in its day, and even now still recognized by those not even alive at the time of its original release. My point is that, as this scientific study has suggested, with its findings, the golden era of pop music, the 60s to the 90s, will remain a special part of the soundtrack of our lives, and in my estimation will outlive the critics and the fads of today. Do you agree or disagree? Comment below and let us know your feelings about this situation. Also, if, like me, you're a fanatic for the greatest hits of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the newest hits, even the 50s, go to ProfessorOfRock.com and check out the story behind the greatest hits of our lives, including some of the ones we've talked about today, like Africa from Toto and Don't Stop Believin' with Journey, because we actually talk to the artists themselves and they tell us the history behind these songs. So hit the subscribe button for more. Until next time, I'm the Professor of Rock, and please help us keep the music alive.